Hello, and thank you for tuning in to Far Above Rubies today. I'm so very glad that each of you are here. Today, we're continuing our series on lessons from the wilderness. We're talking today about God being our provider, and we're going to take a look at how He provided manna for the children of Israel. We're going to read Exodus chapter 16, verses 3 and 4 together, and they say this: "If only the Lord," this is the children of Israel speaking, "if only the Lord had killed us back in Egypt," they moaned. We're being a little dramatic, right? "There we sat around pots filled with meat and ate all the bread we wanted, but now you have brought us into the wilderness to starve us all to death." Then the Lord said to Moses, "I'm going to rain down food from heaven for you. Each day the people can go out and pick up as much food as they need for that day. I will test them in this to see whether or not they will follow my instructions." So the children of Israel are complaining that they have been delivered out of slavery because they don't have anything to eat, all right? They don't have anything to eat, and they think that God is going to leave them there, or at least they're saying they think that God's going to leave them there to die in the wilderness with no food, even after all they've seen Him do. God sent a substance. This is where the manna comes in. God sent a substance that could essentially be like flour, and it coated the ground each morning when this happened, like the morning dew, and you can read about it in a few other places. He provided in such a way that they couldn't have even wrapped their minds around where this provision was going to come from. If you had said, okay, I need food, Lord, and I'm hungry and I have nothing to eat, could you possibly wrap your mind around that every day God would send basically flour, something that could be made into flour, to coat the ground just enough for you to have your daily portion? Of course not. That's not how our minds work. God thinks so far above our ways. He thinks so far outside of our little finite human mind of a box that we can't wrap our hearts and brains around what He desires or intends to do. But here's what I find interesting about their bemoaning, about their complaining, about their being very, very dramatic about what they thought God was going to do here. All that God had done for them, everything He had brought them through, and they couldn't believe Him. They couldn't trust Him to provide for their daily needs, their basic necessities like food on the table. They had seen Him part the Red Sea. They had seen the plagues and the punishment that He had brought upon Egypt. They had seen thousands upon hundreds of thousands of slaves be let go, and they couldn't believe God to put food in their bellies. We can hear that and think, how ridiculous were they? That is so absurd. We can read and watch God part the Red Sea, and of course He's going to put food in your belly and feed your kids. But let me ask you this: how many of us have worried whether or not we would be able to put food on the table for our families in the last 12 months? How many of us have walked into a grocery store and seen store shelves begin to be cleared and had panic and had anxiety and trouble to sleep at night because we worried? I'm talking to myself right here, okay? I'm not pointing fingers at anyone else. I'm pointing to myself. We worried whether or not we would be able to put food in front of our babies in the weeks or months ahead. I have seen God at work so much in my life, throughout the course of my life, that I should have zero doubt that He is able to provide. Not only that He's able, but that He desires to, that He is a good God and He desires good things for me, that He works all things for my good, that He will never leave me nor forsake me. And yet, in the last 12 months, I've seen my faith tried, and I've seen myself wonder if God would forsake the basic needs of my life. So when we want to point fingers at the children of Israel, which does sound a little crazy, we have to ask ourselves if we fall into the same category of distrust. And we need to quickly right the ship. We need to quickly turn our hearts back in God's direction and say, no. I've seen God provide when there was no way. I've seen the healing come when the doctors said it was impossible. I've seen money literally come from nowhere when it needed to come from nowhere. I've seen it happen. So when that fear tries to creep in, when that doubt tries to creep in, when that complaining and moaning attitude, grumbling tries to creep in, we need to be able to look at that doubt and that anxiety and say, no, God is my provider. God is my provider, plain and simple. If you can look back and see God at work in your life in any way, you don't have to wonder if He's going to show up when you need Him most. He is a good God. He will not leave you. He will not forsake you. He will provide your every need. The scripture says all of our needs according to His riches in glory, not according to my talent, not according to how good I can hustle, not according to my bank account, not according to my husband's job or his status on it, or my job or my status on it, but according to His riches in glory, which I promise you don't ever come close to being depleted. He will supply all of my needs. He will supply all of your needs. He is our provider. He is our provider. Go and read Exodus chapter 16. I know we're bouncing back and forth in scriptures a little bit here because we're taking the lessons topically, but I hope you'll go and read this scripture and be encouraged that God is the provider. He will bring that provision from places you can't even wrap your heart or mind around, and it will be a beautiful thing that gives Him all the glory. If no one's told you lately, you are loved and you are cherished and you are valuable. You have beautiful and tremendous worth, my sweet friend, and that worth is far above rubies. Thanks for being here today. I'll see you all tomorrow. Tomorrow's one you don't want to miss. God bless you.